Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, friends. Welcome to another edition of the Bark Tank, post Week 16. Back here in the home office after thawing out in Cincinnati. Another tough one for the Browns. They lose again. They fall to 3-12 with 2 games to go. The Dolphins, Week 17, and then a trip to Baltimore, Week 18. 3-12 after losing on a frigid day in Cincinnati. It was one of those days, and we'll get to what happened on the field in a second. But just real quick here, just to set up from where we sit, because this is always like we wanted to give you a peek inside the booth, if you will, with me and Nathan, the great Jason Gibbs producing, Mac Robinson on the board, Gibbe and Mac behind us. We always keep the window open. You want to hear that crowd noise, even in Cincinnati. All right, you want that crowd noise. So the window's open. We're exposed to the elements. Same goes for Huntington Bank Field, where, like, for example, during the snow globe, there's snow coming inside. But yesterday was freezing, coldest we had been. And Nathan said the coldest he had been in any booth at any time for any game. Now, sufficiently bundled. Yours truly had the Browns dry fit tops and bottoms underneath. I was good to go. I didn't think it was that bad, but we legitimately had bottles of water freezing on the desk in the booth. It was actually warmer on the Browns sideline because they were in the sun. Now, what a lot of teams do is they put the road team, the visiting team, on the sun side of the field. Like, for example, this year in Washington, the Browns sideline baked. Philadelphia, the Browns sideline baked because you were standing in the sun and staring right into the sun the entire game. The same goes for, say, Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, where the 49ers play. It's set up that way, where the home team is in the shade and the road team is baking. But yesterday was the reversal, because in the winter, that flips, and you want to be in the sun. So down on the field before the game, I mean, there are people running around on the Brown sideline in just hoodies. It's not that bad. It's 27 degrees, but you're in the sun, and the wind wasn't bad. It was warmer on the Brown sideline than it was upstairs in our booth. Our booth was freezing. And again, I don't care. I'm doing what any little kid would want to do. I'm doing a Browns game. I was fine. Totally fine. Nathan was the one complaining, by the way. Gibby was freezing. Text early in the morning. Like, Gibby's already there. I haven't left the hotel yet. By the way, coldest booth I've ever been in, dress accordingly. I said, fine. And by the way, I brought a prop. This is, I actually wore this. I've not worn it. You've seen Nathan wear one of these on the sidelines right here. Nathan has worn one of these before, obviously, a bunch. I busted this out, and he and I were both wearing this cap before the game. During the game, rather, and just want to give you the peek inside. I mean, for those listening, I'm sorry you can't see this, but this is the extra fleece-lined cap. This thing is utterly fantastic. I'm not trying to move gear on clevelandbrowns.com or nflshop.com, but if you get one of these for the loved ones, this is a fleece lining in the cap. This thing is amazing. I wore this the entire game. I just wanted to let you know. Nathan also complaining, and Gibby pointed out as well, the Bengals turned the heat off. No, really. We open up the windows. As I said, we always want the windows open. Then they turn the heat off. Well, you want the windows open. We're going to turn the heat off. We're not heating the outdoors like your old man used to say. My dad still does. Why is the air conditioning on or the windows open? I'm not air conditioning the outside. I'm not air conditioning the neighborhood. Well, that's what the Bengals do. Oh, you want the windows open? Sure, we'll turn the heat off. Same goes for CBS. No heat. Back in the press box, there was heat. There was also chili. Like, who eats that stuff? Anyway, I digress. Browns lose 24-6. And what do you want me to say? There's nothing that I can say now that we didn't say on the air. We've seen the movie before. The turnovers, 2 turnovers in the red zone. You can't do that. A couple of things. Number one, I do think Deontay Foreman probably got in on the play before the fumble, but there's no good angle. Mike Woods, a couple others put their hands up, thought it was a touchdown. I think he's in, but you can't see the ball, and so I don't have a complaint. I don't think Mahmoud Diabate was offsides on the Bengals' first play from scrimmage. I think he got right up to the line. I don't think he was offsides. Saw it on the All-22. Again, no convincing angle, but I don't think he was offsides. It doesn't matter. You can't throw 2 picks, or rather, you can't turn it over twice in the red zone. DTR had the pick in the red zone as well in the end zone, and you can't turn it over like that. The penalties were not that bad. I thought the Browns defense, after that 99-yard drive to open the game, actually made some plays, a lot of them, but not enough of them. And the offense didn't do enough after that opening drive. Let's do the positives first. And first and foremost, Myles Garrett. You couldn't get sack 100 against Patrick Mahomes, and I thought at the time that, hey, wouldn't it be cool to sack Mahomes, and then one day these guys are going to be joking about it in Canton because they both will have gold jackets one day. And then one day on the stage at what is now called Tom Benson Memorial Stadium, the former Fawcett Stadium, one day on the stage in Canton, Myles Garrett and Patrick Mahomes can laugh about it. Well, you know what? I think Joe Burrow's got a good shot at Canton as well. Granted, it's early. He doesn't have the rings, but I don't think I'm going too far out on a limb to say he's one of the best we have seen. Still has a long way to go to get to Canton. But maybe one day Myles and Joe Burrow can have that laugh in Canton as well, because he got sack 100 against Joe Burrow, whipping Cody Ford, just blowing right by him and getting to 100.5 career sacks. Also had the amazing play. They didn't throw a flag. Could they have? Maybe. It was borderline. Myles chasing Joe Burrow to the sideline and getting him right before or as they got to the sideline in front of the Browns bench. Myles jammed up a finger when he kind of ran into a heater on the sideline there. Said he had a previous finger injury. But, I mean, what do you want to say about the guy? He's going to be in Canton. He's one of the greatest of all time, and I am honored to have been on that call. Honored to have been on the call for the 2 times the last 2 years where he's jumped over the offensive line and blocked field goals and just is a force of nature. Myles Garrett did it before he got to 29. So the youngest guy to ever get 100. Myles turns 29 on the 29th. So this Sunday, as the Browns are back at home, 4 o'clock start now, by the way. Myles turns 29 when the Browns play the Dolphins week 17. He joins Lawrence Taylor, as the only NFL players with 12 sacks in 5 consecutive seasons. Lawrence Taylor, Myles Garrett, there's the list. Fewest games to 100 sacks. Myles is the youngest. Remember, he came out pretty young from A&M. Reggie White, TJ Watt, DeMarcus Ware, Myles Garrett. Reggie White did it faster than anybody. 13 games faster than anybody. When he did it in 96, Myles did it in 115 games. Myles has sacked Joe Burrow more than anyone in his career. That's now 9 sacks against Joe Burrow in his career. So basically 10% of his sacks are against Joe Burrow, much like Aaron Donald tormenting Russell Wilson. He had a similar number in his Rams career, like 9 or 10% of his sacks were against Russell Wilson, like Burrow, a divisional foe for the Rams and the Seahawks in the NFC West. Obviously, we're in the AFC North. Myles now has, against the Bengals, 12 sacks. He also has 12 against the Steelers. Clay Matthews had 11.5 against the Oilers. Maybe one of those was against the Titans. No, I think it was all Oilers. So 11.5 against the Oilers when they were together in the the AFC Central. But here's what's nuts. So if you take the top 9 individual sack seasons for a Brown, 9 of all time. Now, remember, sacks have only been a stat since 82. Myles has 6 of them. 6 of the top 9. 16 in 22. 16 in 21. 14 a year ago with a DPOY. Reggie Camp, anybody remember Reggie Camp? He wore 96. He was back in the Bernie era, also a little bit before the Bernie era, the Gary Danielson era as well, a little bit before. Reggie Camp had 14 in 84. Myles had 13.5 in 18, his second year in the league. Jameer Miller had 13 in 01. Myles has 12 this year, still 2 games to go. Myles had 12 in the playoff season of 2020, and Clay Matthews in 84 had 12. So Clay Matthews and Reggie Camp combined for 26 in 84. And then in 85, that team made the playoffs at 8-8, lost to Miami in the wild card round. Bernie started that playoff game. Dan Marino rallied the Dolphins back in the fourth quarter. Anyway, I digress. Tip of the cap to Myles Garrett. He was fantastic. Other guys defensively, Mike Hall is the real deal. The real deal. Talking to Kevin Stefanski before the game, our pregame interview on the Browns Radio Network, we pointed out both Mike Hall and Jawan Briggs. These are two young guys on the D-line that I know I said I wanted to see do some good things, build off what they had done last week, and they both did. Jawan Briggs went to school, actually, not only went to school in Cincinnati his last 2 years after transferring from Virginia, he's from Cincinnati, grew up there. So Jawan Briggs, to play well, had a great TFL in the first quarter on Chase Brown. The line shifted and whooped his guy, dropped Chase Brown for a 2-yard loss. He also recovered the fumble that Isaiah McGuire punched out, and he continues to play the run fantastically well. Also gets after the quarterback. He obviously got after the quarterback there. He got the sack on Burrow, and Briggs fell on it. But those are some nice young pieces on the D-line. Mike Hall got a sack. He also got a TFL. Mike Hall's the real deal. I mean, honestly, the pieces on that D-line, the young pieces, tip of the cap to all of them, because they all played well. Also, tip of the cap as well to Jerome Ford, second consecutive game with over 100 yards from scrimmage. He didn't get a 100-yard rushing day. Browns still have not had one from an individual performer, one back with 100 yards this year. But, hey, Jerome Ford playing well. 67-yard run to open this game, or 66. I can't remember. Either way, Browns couldn't punch it in. They all played well. And clearly, Dorian Thompson-Robinson had a lot of throws that he would like to have back. Offense couldn't get in a rhythm, at least in the passing game in the first half, had 0 net passing yards in the first half. That is when you throw in the sacks and obviously take that into the equation with the math. He got something going there in the third. Need more targets for Jerry Jeudy. I think he only had 3. He caught 2. You need more, clearly. David Njoku toughed it out. You rarely see one-game hamstring injuries. Look at George Pickens. He's now missed 3 games. You injure a hammy, you need time. David Njoku missed one game with a hammy, and he came back 8 for 66. He now has 64 catches on the year. Remember, he missed a month early in the season as well. So David Njoku is now fighting a knee injury, Kevin Stefanski said on Monday. So his status for Week 17 is up in the air. And also DTR is nursing a calf. Jameis, remember, was the third. He was inactive. He's the emergency quarterback only. Saw him throwing in warmups. He looked okay. Don't know who's going to go Week 17. It might be Bailey Zappi time. And if that's the case, you know what? Let's go. Let's have fun. Dolphins are fighting for the playoffs. Bailey Zappi time. Bailey Zappi, fun fact, Bailey Zappi has won games, guys. Like, he's beaten the Steelers, for example. When we went to Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago, I didn't get this fact in on the air, but I had it stored away. We just never got to it with the flow of the game. The Browns brought 3 quarterbacks with them to Pittsburgh that had all beaten the Steelers, right? Jameis did it in the Snow Globe. DTR did it at Huntington Bank Field last year with that fourth quarter game-winning drive. And Bailey Zappi beat the Steelers with the Patriots a year ago. So if it's Bailey Zappi against the Dolphins, then so be it. Holiday cheer on the 29th. We'll see you at Huntington Bank Field. But as for 3 and 12, you can't keep turning the ball over like that. And that is the most disappointing thing of all of it. And the pre-snap penalties, like I said, even though I don't think Diabate was offsides, stuff like that, the 2 holding calls in the red zone preceding DTR's interception in the red zone, not going to win, period. You will not win games like that doing things like that. Not against a team fighting for the postseason, which is what the Bengals were. Would have loved to have knocked them out. Did not happen. And now it's on to Miami. Maybe knock them out. Try to knock the Dolphins out of it, because it is spoiler time. And I cringe. I said this to Kevin in our pregame interview. I cringe asking anyone if you want to play spoiler, because it's so annoyingly cliche. But Grant Delpit said it last week. Hey, if I ain't go to the playoffs, you ain't either. Myles said misery loves company. So, yeah, you know what? Go spoil it for the Dolphins, if that's what you can do. All right. Time for our special guest. You guys are watching Hard Knocks. I love Hard Knocks. Let's talk about Hard Knocks. And full disclosure, this was taped last Friday before we went to Cincinnati. All right, I've been looking forward to this because I'm a Hard Knocks fan, devotee, from day one, years and years and years ago. I still say, let's go get a bleeping snack and pretend I'm Rex Ryan. So now we have the Browns on Hard Knocks again, except it's the Browns, the Bengals, the Steelers, and the Ravens. It's in-season Hard Knocks, AFC North edition, every Tuesday evening. Kaley Campen is putting it together. She's the talent and field producer, and she's in the building in Berea at the Cross Country Mortgage Fieldhouse. Kaley, how are you?
I'm good. I can't complain. We got a little snow happening outside, so true AFC North weather over here.
Yeah, and I'm cheating. I'm at the home office in California, for those who already haven't figured it out. This is a different Hard Knocks this year, Kaley. I think it's awesome because you don't just go behind the scenes with one team. You go behind the scenes with 4 teams. What is your role? What is your day-to-day here with the Browns, kind of overseeing all of this as one part of Hard Knocks?
Yeah, so we kind of split up into groups and certain people took each team. So I'm in Cleveland. I have a directing partner here with me as well. But day to day, we're here every day with the team. We kind of follow the team's flow and their schedule. So meetings on Mondays, Tuesdays a player off day, so sometimes we'll be filming some things outside the building on that day. And then Wednesday through Friday is big practice days for us, interviews, media, all that good stuff. And then Saturday usually kind of pivot, start to get ready for game day if we're traveling, get to the city, and then Sunday comes game day.
And we've seen you out there on game day every week here, and including this past week with the rain and the cold, and that was miserable. And then the result, obviously, for those of us in the Browns family, not great as well. And full disclosure, as we tape this, we're taping this before the Bengals game, airing it after the Bengals game. So I'll say right now, the Browns have 3 wins as I ask you this question. Kaley, what's the biggest challenge as you tell the story behind the scenes for a team that's been eliminated from the postseason?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's challenging because everybody wants to be, fighting for a playoff berth, but there's a team here that's working really hard every day. They have personal accolades they want to accomplish. They love the team they're in. So I think you look at it like that, and you also look at it for this weekend, for example. They can knock the Bengals out of playoff contention if they win. So you're motivated, I think, from a lot of different aspects. Certainly it's challenging. We're respectful of the state of the team, and, they haven't been winning games while we're here, but there's a lot of bright spots as well. Last week we got to feature Denzel Ward being Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. Myles Garrett hopefully gets his 100th sack this weekend. So even though, the season's not going exactly as course, there's still a lot of bright moments, and guys are still accomplishing a lot here.
Yeah, and I thought last week with really behind the scenes on how guys get ready physically, Denzel Ward, Russell Wilson, Jamar Chase, it wasn't just, one guy. It was kind of the same theme in all 4 buildings. About all 4 buildings, though, operational security is always a thing. And for those who don't know, you pull the curtain back a little bit. The teams always have the right to go, no. We there's a play on the chalkboard there. You don't show that. Or that was a play in practice that we don't want out there because that's game plan specific. But there are 4 teams here. Has there been any concern or pushback like, hey, you're probably talking to your producer in Cincinnati, not questioning your ethics here, but just like teams can get very, very, very protective here. And there are 4 separate NFL film silos working separately, but you guys also have to work together on storylines and how this whole thing's getting edited.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's something we talked about with the teams before we got started. And that was the big thing with creating consistency and home base for certain people with the team. So they see my face every day. They know that they can trust me. I'm here with them all the way through the stretch. They see their components of the show, like you mentioned, and make sure they have sign off and they feel comfortable with that. There's obviously people are curious, what are other teams filming and things like that. But we keep it, separate. I'm here to focus on the Browns. Somebody else is in Pittsburgh and so on. So, we've made our little pods in each city.
What's your favorite part been so far?
Oh, tough question. I have to say, this team, like you mentioned, obviously the season's not going as planned, but Kevin Stefanski is a true professional.
Yeah,
I'm just
totally
been blown away with how he carries himself, how he motivates this team every week. And, he approaches each game as if it's a playoff game, even though it's not. And just to see how he leads this group I've been blown away with it.
Yeah, and it's something we get to see behind the scenes as well, obviously, whether it's our personal interactions or interviews with Kevin or whether it's just the day-to-day. And granted, I'm not there every day. Others are. Nathan, Jason Gibbs, all the other people behind the scenes with our production side on the radio side of things. But yes, professional. I don't know that there's a better word to describe the guy, and you guys get to see that, and the fans at home get to see that. And the fans at home, I also think, get to see at home, which is cool. Like going with Jameis to his house and seeing his little kids and getting a haircut and wrestling and rolling around on the floor. The idea that a player is willing to pull back that curtain. Jamar Chase in Cincinnati as well with his old man and going to charity events. That's well, look, I like the team meeting room stuff and the mic'd up stuff on the field, but to actually pull back the curtain and see guys at home like that's a show of trust from them to you to say, come into my house.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Jameis and his family is right up there with your question before about some of my favorite moments. That's my favorite part about doing this show is that we get to go home with some of these guys and, like you said, see what their personal life is like. See Jameis just as a dad, just like a million Americans watching at home. So that was fun. It was a snow day. His kids were all excited to see him. So that was fun. And I mean, Jameis's energy around this whole team as the starter or as, helping prepare DTR this week. He's just such a pro as well, and it's been really, really fun to work with him and meet his family too.
I don't know how much is going to make the show, but Jameis and DTR have both hinted at that on the podium getting ready for the Bengals game. I think Jameis used the word servant, like a servant leader, helping DTR in the quarterback room, staying late as well. Have you guys been privy to that?
Yeah, we've definitely seen that. I think you'll get to see it play out in the episode as well. He's just, like I said, once he got the news of DTR getting the start, we instantly saw him step into that backup role and just be a veteran, help teach him anything he needs, staying late if he needs it. And you see DTR soaking in all the knowledge that Jameis has to, provide him too. So that dynamic has been really neat to see all week.
We're talking to Kaley Campen here, who's kind of running Hard Knocks in Berea here from the Browns side of things. Obviously, all four teams, and there's somebody in Pittsburgh doing the same job, somebody in Baltimore doing the same job, somebody in Cincinnati doing the same job. Kaley, has anything surprised you? I don't know, like the idea that it became a thing that Myles had an iPad with iMessage open. I thought, I couldn't have cared less, but has anything caught on? Like, the Batmobile stuff, I know obviously people are going to, latch onto that and that went viral or Jameis talking to the groundskeepers. Anything stand out?
I would say for me, because I'm like a big football nut, is seeing two teams prepare for each other and nearly do the same thing daily. Like there's something really interesting to be able to see these divisional matchups and seeing their weeks almost go identical, but they're eyeing each guy on the other side of the field. So just to like see that comparison and I don't know, almost these guys, I think, can reflect on it too, and that, hey, there's somebody else on the other side doing the same thing we are all week long. So for me, as a football nerd, that's been really cool to see.
How much, if you can say, Kaley, ends up on the cutting room floor? Because I'll like take the Bengals, for example, who the Browns are playing this week before we record this. The Joe Burrow, Zach Taylor, and I know you weren't there, that conversation that got heated, that clearly got picked up on the game broadcast, and there was some colorful language, that didn't make the show. I'm going to guess, understandably, the Bengals didn't want it in the show. How much good stuff's on the cutting room floor?
I mean, I can't speak to that since I'm not in
Right.
Cincinnati.
Understand.
So I think every team's a little bit unique. Every team, we learn it with Hard Knocks wherever we are each year. Each team has their sensitivities. Some teams, don't mind certain things being in where others do. For us, the Browns have been great to work with. So they've done this before as well. Their PR department has been through this with NFL Films and doing summer Hard Knocks. Mm-hmm. So for us, what you guys are seeing is a lot of what we're capturing. There's not a lot getting left out.
I think the show's great, and I think it's something that's probably going to stick. Obviously, that's above both of our pay grades. Do you think we see another division next year do the same thing?
I sure hope so. I think everybody wants to see that. And like you said, it draws in 4 fan bases. People are drawn into a whole division. So I think that adds a whole level of excitement compared to just following one team.
Can I nominate the NFC North?
I would like to nominate.
I think the NFC North would be amazing. So for those who don't know, Kaley, you kind of grew up with this, right? I mean, your dad, for those who don't know, your dad used to coach for the Browns for a year in 2019. James Campen, offensive line coach, for that one season before Kevin came in 2020. But for like a decade and a half, right? Your dad was doing the same thing for the Packers. So Green Bay. I mean, the fans in Minnesota, and the fans in Chicago, and the fans in Detroit. Like, the NFC North would be awesome.
You nailed it. It would definitely be awesome. Like you said, I've grown up around this my whole life, so I love football, and I'm a little bit biased that I think Green Bay would be awesome, and the NFC North would. I mean, you see them competing this year; they're all fighting for a playoff spot. So I think it's a great nod to maybe look to that next year.
Are you a Packers fan?
At heart, I'm a Packers fan.
Okay, you're allowed to admit it. I mean,
yeah.
Okay. Honestly, I think that's one of the best things. If I could go back to my days working at NFL media, and we're all NFL media, NFL Network, NFL Films, all under the same umbrella. I'm no longer there. For those who don't know, obviously, I'm wearing a Brown shirt right now. But I would always get from people, and I'm sure you do as well, hey, you're not really allowed to root for somebody, are you? And I would say, no, we're all here because we're football fans. We all have our why, right? We all grew up with a team. Rich Eisen can go on the air. Everyone knows he's a Jets fan. He can say, I am a Jets fan. It's why he's in this role. It's why he loves football. It's why he still does this. It's like, we're allowed to say who we root for, as long as once the show begins, or once you start doing your work and you go to work, you take that hat off and you do your job.
Totally. You nailed it. Because I feel like we're all like, well, we're fans of everyone. But you're right. We all got here because we're fans of football, and we love that. I always say, like, Green Bay is in my heart. And usually I'm rooting for the Hard Knocks team that I'm working with in the summer and the season. So they become my team for the year. And, I've been in Berea since November. So I became a diehard Browns fan because I'm here. And I want to see these guys win.
Much different sized towns. For those who haven't been to Green Bay, as you know, it's like you get off at the airport, and actually, first of all, let's start with the airport. There's no restaurant after security. There, not a single one. There's a vending machine. That's it. That's how small the town is. You get out of the airport. There's a hotel and a casino across the street. You can be downtown in 4 minutes. I have left Lambeau and made it to the airport in 6 minutes. It's that small. But in terms of we love our football. Compare Kaley, Cleveland, and Green Bay.
It's funny because I feel like there are some similarities, even just that their facility here is around the neighborhood, and there's people in the back who can see it. So that close, intimate feel, I think, is here a little bit. I also think this fan base loves their team. Pretty close to Green Bay. They're diehard. I mean, even just the game against Kansas City, the weather was terrible, and those fans showed out. I mean, the stadium was, from what I could see, still full when we were finishing. So the fans are true and true here, and that's really cool to see. And a lot of the players have talked about it too, that Browns fans, they're different. They've been riding with this team, win or lose, for a long time. So the fan base is awesome.
All right. Last question here. And by the way, we're in agreement on that one. Last question. Were you prepared did you have a plan in place if the most famous woman on earth happened to show up at the game this past weekend with the Chiefs in town, obviously?
This might disappoint the Swifties. We didn't really have a full plan in place. When we did in-season Hard Knocks with the Dolphins last year, they played in Kansas City for wild card. We were all on high alert for Taylor Swift then. Last week we were just all in on the Browns and getting through a very rainy weather game. So Taylor Swift didn't make it, but that's okay.
Okay. It was okay. At the game, the end result was not okay, but it was okay that she did not arrive. And by the way, just the back and forth on game day, like I hear she's coming, I hear she's not coming, I hear she's coming. Somebody saw her, somebody isn't. Like, it was absurd with the amount of speculation. I mean, that's a show within a show right there, but she wasn't there. So
I think I disappointed a lot of people because I was waiting in the tunnel as we filmed the Browns players arriving on game day, and I got stopped probably 10 times. Do you know when she's coming? Is she here? Which route is she taking? And I'm like, I'm just waiting for the Browns. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and if she happens to stroll in, it's okay. Cameras are rolling. Yes. I guarantee it would have made the show. Yeah, exactly. I guarantee you. But she didn't show up. This is going to make the show. It actually did, quote unquote, make the show. Kaley Campen, who's running the Brown side of things here as a talent and field producer in Berea, the Cross Country Mortgage Fieldhouse and campus. We greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate your time. Love the show. I meant every word of it. Happy holidays to you. And I hope our paths cross soon, whether it's in Cincinnati or at home or in Baltimore.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm glad you're such a big fan of the show. We appreciate it.
All right, let's end with some holiday cheer. I know the season has not gone how any of us wanted, for a litany of reasons and in so many different ways. However, I want to say Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah and Happy Holidays. And you know what? We'll say Happy New Year, even though we'll be back after the Dolphins game before the ball will drop and we go to 2025. But just want to say best wishes to everybody for not only listening and watching the Bark Tank presented by Sugardale, but for sticking with us. This pod, all the great content on clevelandbrowns.com, the Cleveland Browns radio network on Sundays or Mondays or Thursdays, on any game day with Nathan, with Gerard, with all our entire great crew behind the scenes, Gibby and Mac and Clay Weiss, who's down on the sideline with Gerard. We all went out for a great holiday dinner on Saturday evening in Cincinnati and raised a glass. We were thanking each other for the work, but also that thanks goes to you at home as well for listening and for being there and for being with us, because we're all going through this together. This being a season that obviously isn't what any of us thought it would be, but I'm grateful, truly grateful for all the people that I work with and have welcomed me into the Browns family, and for you guys there as well. And that extends to our great content team that puts this together. Jeff McDaniel and Ricky Sawinski as well. And everyone behind the scenes, Fila and Vinny and Caroline and Gabe and Jordan with Gibby on CBD and everyone else whose names I'm forgetting because I'm not in the building. Enough. I'm often here in the home office. So happy holidays. Thanks for listening to the Bark Tank presented by Sugardale. My name is Andrew Siciliano, and I will see you after Santa comes down the chimney. So long, everybody.